As you might have heard already, Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern, both dominant Class 1 railroads in the United States, wants to merge together to form the first west to east coast railroad ranging from California to Nebraska to Georgia and to Pennsylvania. Union Pacific, already being the largest railroad ever, would double in size, having over 67,600 miles of track in the country. Starting in May 2025, Union Pacific began talking about the possible merger deals with Norfolk Southern and seen into creating the first Transcontinental Railroad. Not much was talked about between the times of May and July because it was mostly done as inside deals that were done within the executives of both railroad companies. Then fast forward 2 months later, in mid-July 2025, Union Pacific would go on in depth to strike a deal with Norfolk Southern and buy them out for $85 billion. Union Pacific, using the help work alongside with the bankers from Morgan Stanley to bid on this, and so would the government of the United States. Then on July 29th, 2025, Norfolk Southern and Union Pacific top executives would sign a deal to become one railroad of the nation. This would leave both railroad enthusiasts and employees concerned and divided on what will become for the future of the railroads in suit. Rail fans, from what I saw across social media, were having full meltdowns on the whole thing of Norfolk Southern being gone for good, and were giving memoirs about it. However, it is not fully merged, as most people did not think about it whatsoever, or most people did not think because they did not read it carefully. It's only been signed by executives, which now has to be approved by the Surface Transportation Board and by the government. The Surface Transportation Board would have to fully scan over and see what are the pros and cons of this merger, and from what I was told, this merger might have a lot of cons to this instead of the good things, and I'll explain why and give my reasons. For the most part, this would create a monopoly within the railroad, creating a capitalist idea, which would violate the Sherman Antitrust Act because of very competitive reasons and cause limitations on trade and commerce for other railroads like CSX, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, Canadian National, and Kansas Pacific Kansas City Southern, and it wouldn't go too well for others. The merger also can go into a potential domino effect and would leave the other Class 1 railroads to fight for their deals and stay alive, or they would have to merge. And if Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern ever did merge, if the STB approves it, CSX and BNSF would be the next major merger player as in whole, and after that, Canadian National or Kansas Pacific Kansas City would have to merge into one of the two, and this would create a strife between two massive railroads in suit, and would create somewhat of a what I would say a trade war, just like the Cold War, but with just railroads. Another thing to play in is a cut of thousands of jobs of conductors, engineers, and supply management, and possibly higher up executives depending on how much is done. And this would leave a ton of trains crewless and a bunch of things, making trains late. Another thing as well would be the cut of some less used lines, and maybe even short lines that Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern share, and would cut trains as well that were on the mainstay of Norfolk Southern that Union Pacific does not want to have anymore. Lastly, for the cons, this is a stretch, but this would cause massive strikes and organize mass labor unions to fight this, and for the ones who would do stay after the merger, they would have to face extreme conditions from the scorching desert to the brutal terrain of the Appalachian Mountains, and time management they would have to go from now, and also have to deal with 2 to 3 mile-long trains on lines not built for it whatsoever. Remember, the railroads only want money and want the dues for companies that need freight shipments, creating a capitalist ideology. Now moving in onto the pros of this upcoming merger. For obvious reasons, this would increase the United States profit and production all across the country, as if they want to get a shipment from Los Angeles to Charleston, they could literally do that in like days. And another thing is, they could also bring in more power on the railfan side of things, like Union Pacific SD70 Aces, SD70Ms, and many other local power that could be used on the East Coast for like yard jobs and everything else. Union Pacific before the PTC days were pretty prominent on the eastern coast, along with BNSF and other companies, including like leasers, and it might be relieved again under a different thing if the merger is approved. Now, the STB could take weeks, months, or maybe even a couple of years to get approved, and most likely will get voted no as a result, as I stated in my reasons earlier. Now you have been informed about the merger deal as of July 30th, 2025, and what is to come for the future. I'll update about this as soon as an answer has been made for the future regarding about the merger. Thank you for watching, and this is Southern CS6 Vlog out.